One of the most iconic elements of the original Beyblade series has to be the Bit Beasts. You watch the anime as a kid and you see these giant monsters that are associated with the different characters in their Beyblades, and you think, well, gosh darn, I do love a giant dragon. It's the perfect thing for getting kids interested in buying the toys, but in reality, there wasn't much of a choice when it came to bit chips in the physical toy line. It was mostly aesthetic. And I think Takara knew that and were worried that it could affect things in some way. If one part of their 5-layer system is purely aesthetic, what's the point of having it? So they played around with a few different ideas. The first of these ideas was the short bit chips. The original Beyblades came with a short bit chip and a bit chip protector, and it was in the rules that if the bit chip fell out, then you lose that round. However, they quickly introduced long bit chips that meant that they didn't fall out mid-battle, and the rule was fairly quietly abandoned. The second attempt was largely based around the aesthetics still. However, it was more into assigning the rarity to stickers, releasing the bit chip booster packs that meant you could get a rare one and trade that with your friends for one that they had. This was by far the most successful strategy, and really it shows that they didn't need to worry too much about having bit chips be mostly aesthetic, because all of the other attempts making them into a useful part of the game sort of failed. People weren't interested in them. That leads me to the third attempt that I'd never heard of until I decided to look at what the Japanese text on some of my Bit Beasts meant. What I found out was that Takara had assigned special moves to some Bit Beasts. It makes Bit Beasts more like they are in the anime, where they influence the battle in some way. Obviously it's nothing as serious or real as creating a tornado or anything, but having the ability to, once a battle, make the opponent not launch with a weight disc or to launch 10 seconds after them, it gives you that sense that the Bit Beast is doing something. It makes it that more special for you. I might not have the full set of these rules. I only got a couple of early to mid instruction manuals, and in what I've got, rules change quite frequently, so it's possible that there are more, there are less, they've been changed, they've been banned. I'm not sure. The rules for even just playing the game are different in these manuals. In Polter's instructions, you choose 3 Beyblades and you use each of them for 1 round, and it's a best of 3. I think in a way that emulates the original rules of the Beyblade Game Boy Color game. By Trigger F, it's 1 Beyblade, first to 3 points. You get 2 points for a knockout and 1 point for a spin finish. Then, not even a month later, with Master Tranza, it's first to 2 points, but the other rules the same as Trigger F's. But what are the special rules that I've got? In the most up-to-date rules that I've got, they're separated into different categories. First is life type, which is either 1 or 2 losses is okay. The second is damage type, which means your opponent would launch either without a weight disc or without an attack ring. The attack ring one is banned in this set. Presumably because, it's unsafe to have a 16-gram metal disc flying at kids. You couldn't get away with that these days. It's not very safe. It's not very good, is it? The third is return type, and it's very simple. You just reflect whatever your opponent's using back at them. The fourth is help type, which just means you can launch a second Beyblade into the arena within the first 10 seconds of the match. The next section is the time section, where your opponent launches between 1 and 10 seconds before you. The next is a confusing one, and all of them are banned in this set that I have. It's called the freeze section, which it appears to be either choosing a Beyblade part that your opponent has to use or cannot use. I'm not quite sure. But they're separated into 3 different ones, attack, ring, weight disc, or blade base. With them being banned, the description of them is just, this has been banned. Being the freeze section, I feel like it would make more sense if it was to stop your opponent using a specific part, but it could very well be you choose a part and freeze them into using it. I'm not sure. The next section is change type, which says you change Beyblades and launcher with your opponent, and you use theirs and they use yours for a round. The next section is the block special move, which, what's the point in playing bloody special rules Beyblade if you're just going to block it, but The next section is the long rule, which again, I'm not fully sure on how this would work. With the way that the rules change, I think it would just mean play either 5 rounds or play first to 5 points, or best of 5, I don't really know. I think like with any of these sets of rules, you're gonna end up sort of having your own home rules. You can't use this, or you can't do this, or this one actually works like this. Because for the most part, any of these rules is basically going to be a free win for a round. Having the rules essentially be you win this round isn't that interesting, and I can see why it didn't really take off. You can see where they've tried to balance and make these rules more fair and interesting. So I'd be interested to know if the final releases had a list of more balanced and interesting rules. But given that I've still never heard anyone really talking about them, I'm sure it's most of the same. Because I would be interested in playing with these rules, at least occasionally. It's like Super Smash Bros. Most of the time people are going to want to play Final Destination, no stage hazards, no items, because losing in a fairly skill-based thing where someone's just randomly come up and hit you with a hammer that one-shots you isn't the most interesting thing, but it can be fun to use them every once in a while to even out the playing field with a family member or a friend that's not super invested. So yeah, have you ever heard of these? Did they come to the West and I just haven't heard of them? Do people just completely hate them and ignore that they exist? Let me know, and if you have any corrections or other rules that I've missed out, then let me know. I know this is quite different to the first video I made, but you know, I just found it quite interesting to sort of dive into these instruction manuals and see the rules evolving and seeing Takara Tomy try and figure out how they wanted everything to work. But it's time for me to stop rambling. Thank you anyone once again who has watched this video. Feel free to comment, like and subscribe and all of the things, and check out the Twitter. You know the things that you do with YouTube. Oh, goodbye.